This time on Road and Race, I pamper the S2000 with a comprehensive service by changing the engine oil, transmission oil, differential oil, coolant, spark plugs, and front discs and pads. Hi, I'm Neil and welcome to another episode of Road and Race. In this episode I'm working on the S2000 again, and I'm going to be making sure that everything mechanical has been serviced correctly. I'm talking about all the fluids and consumable parts. I'll also be changing the front discs and pads because they're below their wear limits. So let's get started. Here we have everything we need to get started. Obviously brake discs, new pads, brake fluid, engine oil, filter, coolant, and the differential and transmission oils, and spark plugs down at the bottom. All this kit cost me £350. Out of interest, I did ring Honda, ask them how much it'd be to get all this stuff done by them. £1,300. So a little bit of saving there, isn't it? First up, let's start with something easy, the engine oil. The S2000 takes 4.8 litres of oil when you change the filter at the same time. Got a 5W40 spec. Honda advised changing the oil every 7,500 miles or once a year. Now the filter, I've gone for a K&N filter, slightly more expensive, but it comes with this little nut on top which makes getting it on and off again so much easier. I think it's worth the money. I've run the car for 3 minutes, so let's just check the sump, see if it's dry. No leaks there. And the oil filter housing looks dry as well. Maybe one last check of the dipstick, and then we'll call that done. Now we're going to change the transmission oil. We're using a 75W80 oil. To do a change takes about 1.5 litres. So I've got 2 bottles here. Honda recommend doing this every 6 years or 90,000 miles. Here we are under the car, and here is the transmission. This is the drain plug and this is the fill plug. Now, whilst it's always tempting to press on and start draining the system, my top tip is to remove the fill plug first, because if you can't get that undone and you've already drained the system, you're kind of stuck. So it's best to make sure that this comes off first. Now that all the old fluid is out, you just need to fill the new fluid in here until it starts to drip out. Now time to change the rear differential oil. We're using a AEW90 oil. When you do a change, use about 3/4 of a litre. So I've got a litre bottle here. Honda recommend quite a aggressive change frequency for this differential, every 2 years or 30,000 miles. Hello, you join me at the rear of the car with the differential. Same process as the transmission. We've got the drain plug here and the fill plug here. First issue. Generally working on this Honda's been okay. You know, it's been quite good access, everything's been quite logical. Here is the problem. The drain plug is a 24mm, easy peasy. Every toolkit has a 24mm. This, you think, well, make it a 24 or a 22. No, it's a 23. No toolkit has a 23. I've got a billion 24s and 22s, like sockets and spanners. I don't have a 23. Plus, if you've had a 23, doesn't fit. So I'm gonna have to go and buy myself a 23mm spanner, a long one. I'm gonna try the last resort. The option no one enjoys doing, the adjustable spanner. So obviously I don't have enough leverage on it at the moment. I'll get a kind of bar to extend it and see how well we do. As thought, a waste of time. Let's go and buy that spanner. I've got a 23. Let's continue. Moving on to spark plugs now. Honda advised doing this every 7 years or 100,000 miles. We're using the NKG PFR 7G11S. It's time to change the spark plugs, and to do that I need to take the cover off the engine, pull out the ignition coils, and that should give me access to the spark plugs. But first, I'm going to disconnect the battery. Here's the spark plug I took out on the left and the new one on the right. As you can see, a little bit sooty. Not the worst I've seen, certainly, but always nice to change these, isn't there? And you can look at the part numbers. We're putting back in exactly the same type of spark plug as we're taking out. So what I'm going to do, put a bit of copper grease on the threads, just as an anti-seize. Why? Because the Honda service manual says I must do it. So I'm going to do it. Copper grease applied. Now, as you can see, if you pop this in the socket, it'll just fall out. So my top tip is just put a bit of electrical tape in there. It reduces the amount of gap, holds it in whilst you can then just plop it in the engine. Like this, see, just a strip of tape. Then when you put the spark plug in, it doesn't fall out. Next up, coolant. Always a bit of a tricky one, getting the right coolant for your car. I've always bought comma coolant because you go to their website, put in your car reg, and it'll tell you exactly which one to get, so it's always quite convenient. Apparently we need 6.5 litres for this. I've got concentrated, so I'll be diluting this down with some distilled water. Honda recommend changing your coolant every 5 years or 60,000 miles. Time to flush the coolant. You take the radiator cap off. There's a bleed screw here which I'm going to loosen, and I'm going to take the expansion expansion bottle off and drain it. Then I'll get under the car and there's a little drain plug on the radiator. I'll open that and let all the coolant flow out. I've loosened off the bleed nipple here on the engine block, and I'm going to pour in my 50-50 mix of engine coolant and deionized water into the radiator cap until the level hits the bottom of the filler neck. I got about 6 litres of coolant out of the car, and I've put about 6 litres back into the car, and you can just see the level here is at the bottom of the filler neck. So we know we're there or thereabouts. Now, we have to start the engine, get it up to temperature, the fan should turn on, and we'll leave the radiator cap off to try and let any air bubbles that may still be in there escape. Now let's get the front discs and pads on the car, and we'll also change the brake fluid because that needs changing every 2 years. 2 screws here, takes the disc off. Got 2 caliper bolts you need to remove here, and then the carrier bolts here and here. So that leaves us with 3 common service items left to discuss: the engine belts, the air filter, engine air filter, and the power steering fluid. Now, this car is quite ahead of its time. Cars of this generation had hydraulic power steering around this era, but this car has electric power steering, so there's no fluid to change. The air filter I've already checked and looks good, and so do the drive belts, but I'll show you a bit closer just so you can see. Whilst the outside of the filter is a bit grubby, so that's me and my gloves. I just smeared grease all over it. If you look inside the fins, it doesn't look dirty at all. I think it's been replaced quite recently. I mean, a bit of fluff in there, but now get in here. I mean, it's fairly clean, isn't it? A bit of specks of dust and whatnot. I don't think this needs replacing just yet. And the drive belts, there's no signs of cracking or fatigue or anything like that, so again, I think they're fine. In the next video, we've just got a few kind of miscellaneous items to finish out, because we're nearly finished now. License plate, door hinge, wheel caps, floor mats, just all the stuff that doesn't kind of, all the leftover bits I've just got to finish off really. And I'll do a full engine diagnostic as well, just check so there's nothing, kind of any hidden gremlins or whatnot. If you have found this video useful, please hit the like button, it really helps. And if you would like to become a member of the channel, I post an exclusive members only video every week, which is always fun and obviously helps support me and the channel. So please do check that out, link in the description box. And as always, thanks for watching.